All right, Assalamu alaikum. We were having some problems, some technical difficulties. All right, so hopefully we can get through this. At the time, who were the people who were doing the bombings? Who were the terrorists? And why didn't they get the same, even at that time, the same outspokenness from the United States government and from citizens who are now, all in the uproar now about, so of course it was mostly the black people who spoke out against it. But these people were the first to do the bombings. They were the first bombers and killers of innocent people, children. And in fact, in this incident, they bombed a black church in which they killed 4 young African American girls. Very horrendous, one of the most horrendous terrorist attacks at that time. Again, like I said, it's so-called Islamic terrorism was unheard of, right? Was unheard of. I don't even know if the PLO was doing anything back in 1963. I could be wrong about that, but I don't. The September 15th was the unfortunate anniversary of that bombing, and I wanted to talk about it just to inform people that, again, and this is why, like I said, it upsets me to see how, like when they talk about Islamic extremism or Islamic terrorism, how they're, how they want to, how they're all, so appalled by it, but again, forgetting their history, that they indeed were known for bombings and acts of terrorism, right? They were the ones known for bombing and acts of terror. So as I always said, just like I don't take it from any of them telling me to go, 4 little girls were killed, 4 black girls were killed, that no one came forward. No one came forward to give any information on who were the perpetrators of this act of terror. The FBI, the CIA, nobody could investigate or seem to do any type of thorough investigation to bring the perpetrators to justice. In fact, did you know that it took about 40 years before they were arrested? And it wasn't because of Luther King and other civil rights leaders, but there wasn't this uproar. So it's like out against so-called Islamic terrorism for the simple fact that they've been hypocritical. They've been hypocritical in their history, and in their generations they've been hypocritical because they didn't take the stand for justice when it needed to be taken. If they had taken a stand for justice back in those days, then we could say, yes, we could say, right, yes, we're going to stand together, and you're being appalled about so-called Islamic. But so they're hypocrites. They're a bunch of hypocrites. They were the ones who were the terrorists. They're the first terrorists. They were the ones committing the acts of terror and bombings. And as I said, the reason why I take issue with it is because they did not speak out. They did not speak out about it. They did. These Edgar Evers who was a civil rights leader, was assassinated. Same thing. It took about 40 years to bring the perpetrator of his assassination and it only was done because his wife fought and pushed. But look again, it took 40 years. I mean, look how long that is. And you wonder, nobody had a guilty conscience. Not one of them from amongst the segregation that said, again, had a guilty conscience and could say, this needs to be, even if you gave an anonymous tip without giving your name, just say, hey, I know who did it. It was so and so. Nobody for 40 years. Same thing with the bombing of the church. For 40 years, nobody said, wow, you know what? You guys killed little girls. That's a little bit too much. Right? But take that and compare that to incidents of Muslim terror. Where we had Muslim family members of the suspected terrorists tipping off the law enforcement, giving tips to the FBI themselves, or other Muslims seeing that something was going wrong and they gave tips to law enforcement right away. They didn't wait 40 years, right? They didn't wait 10 years, 5 years. Right away, hey, of the Klan, and he talked about bombing the church, or hey, my husband or whoever, they bombed Martin Luther King's house, or they were plotting, right? And so that's why I take issue with them in their double standard and their hypocrisy.